I'm going to play a clip of, thank you, of President Obama at some round table that is being hosted by Chris Matthews. I don't know who else was on that round table, but I'm willing to bet that those tech people who want their intellectual property protected, that the other people, I don't know that there was any critics on there. Some small business people, supposedly. Elizabeth Warren came out and bashed the TPP. And let me tell you what's going on now. Elizabeth Warren is trying to do, and the Democrats in the Senate are trying to do, what Ted Cruz did with Republicans in the House. Now, Ted Cruz is not coming to the rescue. Even though President Obama is a dictator, you're not going to hear Ted Cruz say, we're not going to give fast-track authority to President Obama or to Hillary Clinton, for that matter. Remember, this TPA, the fast-track authority, exists for 3 to 6 years. So it's into the next administration either way. So Elizabeth Warren comes out and says, this trade deal, you're negotiating it in secret. You're not even allowing Congress people to know what's in it before they give you this authority to basically just ram it through. We don't do this with anything else. Talk about jamming it down our throats. And President Obama had this to say on this panel. It's long. Come up with a specific. Come up with one measure that he's talking about, and he won't, because they won't show us what's in it, because none of this is the case. This is about some fanciful notion of we've got to isolate China, even though I don't even think this does it based upon what I've seen secondhand. That the country of origin can have up to like 50 to 60% of what the final product is. Country of origin, I should say, can be deemed to just have established 40% of what the product is. So if you're Vietnam and you're in this deal, you can get 60% from China. So it's all about isolating China. It's ridiculous. But in the end, it's really just about protecting pharmaceutical profits. Let's play this audio.
And I love Elizabeth. We're allies on a whole host of issues, but she's wrong on this. And let me be very clear about my views on trade generally and why this is so important.
Stop.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to listen to this and understand that his views on trade generally are wholly irrelevant. Because we have no way of knowing that this so-called trade deal comports with these views. And let me also remind you, this guy on the campaign trail in 2008 said he was going to fix NAFTA, the problems that were in NAFTA, sent up Goolsbee to Canada to tell the Canadians, don't worry. So when it comes to trade, President Obama's on very shaky ground as to whether or not he walks his own talk.
I'm not somebody who believes in trade just for trade's sake. I come from a state, Illinois, that was devastated by the loss of manufacturing in many small towns. I think that we had a stretch of a couple of decades where, in part because of globalization, you had manufacturing moving to other places in search of low wages.
Pause it.
No environmental
He won't say the words NAFTA here, I don't think, either. Because he didn't want to remind people about that incident.
Standards, no labor standards. So trade deals haven't always worked for us. But what I've also always believed is that it's important for us to be able to export our goods, to make sure our businesses are competitive. That's good for American workers. That's good for American businesses. It's good for America's small business. So when I came into office, I said, what kind of trade deal would I like to see? How would we revamp how we've done trade to make it work for America? And we know that we'd have strong enforceable labor standards for other countries that we trade with. We'd have strong environmental standards with the countries that we trade with. We'd make sure that we have access to their markets just like they've got access to ours, so that it was fair and reciprocal. And we decided to start trying to craft a new kind of trade deal in the largest market in the world, because 95% of customers for U.S. businesses is going to be outside of the United States. And if we want to compete and create jobs here in the United States, we got to be there. And the fastest growing, most populous region in the world is in the Asia-Pacific region. So we've pulled together 11 countries to come up with a high standard, enforceable trade provision that has unprecedented labor standards, unprecedented environmental standards, fixes a lot of the problems that you had in things like NAFTA.
Stop. Fixes a lot of problems you have in like NAFTA. Really? Of course, this has nothing to do with the same parties as to NAFTA. But here's the bottom line. All of these standards, frozen. Once these standards are established, they are frozen because you are not allowed, without paying off industry, to change these standards or raise them in any way. So even if we are to believe that there is some baseline provided for labor and environmental standards as the globe warms, you cannot raise those environmental standards. As problems arise, you cannot raise those standards without paying essentially for the privilege to corporations. Continue.
And ultimately, I would not be putting this forward if I was not absolutely certain that this was going to be good for American workers.
Pause it.
Now,
in other words, we're not going to tell you what's in there, but trust me.
Understandably, folks in labor and some progressives are suspicious generally because of the experiences they saw in the past. But my point is, don't fight the last war. Wait and see what we actually have in this deal before you make those judgments. Because what I know is that if we are going to succeed as an economy, where already about 11 million of the high-paying jobs...
I don't want to hear the rest of the BS. Wait and see. How about showing it? Why make people vote on fast-track authority now? So it's trust us, but, you know, you don't believe I'm not going to crash out the car? Give me the keys. We'll find out.
Jobs in the United States are directly related to exports overseas. And it's not just big businesses. It's small businesses like are represented around this table. Then we've got to be able to craft the kinds of trade deals that I'm talking about.
Ah, all right. So the answer we got there was no answer. No answer.
Polished no answer. But that's just stunning. The notion of, I feel like you just can't underline that enough. Wait and see what's in this bill that I'm demanding an up or down sight unseen vote on.
Right.
We're
going to suspend all the way that we do legislation.
Even if this was secretly an amazingly progressive bill, you would vote no for it just on principle of that.
Of the authority.
Of the fast track authority.
Right.
The notion of an up or down on something you know nothing about. And all of the other things, too. It's important, I think, like the labor enforcement mechanisms. Like, you know, the International Labor Organization doesn't have actual teeth in the current system. So there could be a mechanism for them saying Vietnam is abusing these people's labor rights. Okay. The mechanism that has enforcement is the WTO mechanism on you need to overturn that regulation because it's a barrier to our profits.
Right.
That actually has teeth.